Hi guys, so I thought it'd be really fun to start this new series on my channel called College Roadstop, where I would just talk about financial aid, roommates, like just stereotypical college stuff that I have learned to deal with. I'm a third year in college right now, so kind of have some experience living the college life. I hope I can answer some questions you guys might have. I'm gonna try to answer the questions that I had when I was in college, or if I had it as a first year. So yeah, I hope you like this series. I thought the first video would be really cool if I did it on Fasfa, because I know some schools don't really do a good job on explaining Fasfa, how to apply, what it is to incoming first years, so seniors. Or I know some people have their parents do it, and when they're in college they don't know what to do because their parents did it for them their first year. So yeah, so I hope this video is informative, I hope it's clear, and I hope you guys get a lot out of it. And if you like it, please subscribe, like, and comment. Let me know which type of videos you want me to do. And yeah, so what is FAFSA? FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. It's a form that can be prepared annually by current and prospective college students in the United States to determine their eligibility for student financial aid. So pretty much FAFSA is the form you will fill out to be considered for the Pell Grant. It'll let you know if you qualify to receive any Pell Grant and how much you're going to receive for the upcoming year. You do have to fill it out yearly, so just make sure of that. So some important first things. So number one, so the federal deadline for federal aid in the United States is June 30th, 2019, but each specific state has their own deadline. So if you live in California, the deadline to apply for FAFSA is March 2nd. So we have like a little under 2 months if you still need to fill it out. So just make sure you guys research what the deadline is for your state. So once again, if you live in California, it's March 2nd. So FAFSA opens up October 1st every single year. So it's been open for a couple months now. And then in California, it closes March 2nd. So the maximum amount that one can receive through FAFSA or the Pell Grant, it's $6,095 yearly, which gets divided either by semester or quarterly, depending which type of time system your college is. I go to a quarterly college, so my Pell Grant gets divided 3 ways. Okay, so this is super important if you're a student who has DACA. So you don't want to fill out the FAFSA form if you have DACA. You're not going to get anything. You're not eligible for anything under DACA. So you want to fill out a California Dream Act application, which is the equivalent of FAFSA for DACA students. So if you are a non-citizen holding a social security card issued through DACA or for some other work authorization, you should fill out the California Dream Act application, not a FAFSA form. The Dream Act application can be found at www.caldreamact.org. I'll be linking all the important sites in the description box. But yeah, so if you're a student under DACA, don't fill out the FAFSA. You're not going to get anything. Fill out the California Dream Act. I think I'm going to do a separate video on how you undocumented students could get financial aid. I just have to do more research because I'm not too sure of it. But yeah, just stay tuned. So another important thing you have to remember when filling out FAFSA is that you can only get the Pell Grant for 12 semesters, which is equivalent to 6 years. A couple schools only let you stay at their school for a total of 5 years. I know a lot don't want you to stay longer than 5 years. Depending on your major, you have to graduate within 4 years. So it just depends your major, your school. But to be eligible for a Pell Grant, you can only get it for 12 semesters. This is super important because a lot of students aren't told this, especially if you're going to community college and then transferring. So what I was told in high school and what teachers tell us is that, oh, go to community college, you could go for 2 years, it'll be super cheap, and then transfer. But the reality of it is that most people don't transfer after 2 years. It's just unrealistic to transfer within 2 years because you have to apply So if you're going to community college, you have to apply to go to whatever school you want to transfer to the November of your second year. So pretty much you only have one full year in college, and a lot of people don't have the units to graduate. They don't know if they're going to fulfill the unit. So a lot of people end up graduating after the third year. And since you can only give the Pell Grant for 12 semesters, if you get it in community college, it limits the amount that you could get once you transfer. So like, for example, I went straight to a 4-year. So I'm eligible to have the Pell Grant for 5 years because my school allows us to stay a 5th year, or at least in my major it does. So if something comes up and I need to stay a 5th year, then I'll still be eligible for a Pell Grant and I'll still have that federal aid. But I have a friend who went to community college because she couldn't afford to go straight to a 4-year. And she ended up staying 3 years because she wanted to get guaranteed a spot in nursing. So she wanted to make sure her resume and transcript were amazing. So she stayed a 3rd year, and she was getting Fasfa, or the Pell Grant, those 3 years. And now when she's transferring, she realizes if she needs to stay technically a 5th year, which would be a 3rd year and a 4-year, she probably won't be able to afford it because she's not going to be eligible to get the Pell Grant, because then it'll be technically 6 years that she's going to be receiving the Pell Grant. And even though you can receive the Pell Grant for around 6 years, it really just depends. Because, okay, so I was under depression, you can only get it for 5 years. So I guess depending on whether you're on semester and quarter, it depends 5 or 6. But the case is, like, she won't be able to stay an extra year in a 4-year if she needs it, because she's not going to be able to afford it because she won't get the Pell Grant. So it's just really, really critical that you talk with your parents, you talk with your counselors. I recommend, if you're going to a community college and you could afford paying it out of pocket, I know they just recently passed like a bill or a grant that's making community college, at least in California, super affordable, and you only pay like around $15 a semester. I'm not quite sure, but if you're eligible and able to pay community college out of pocket, I would hold off on applying for FAFSA until you're transferring into a 4-year, unless you open a savings account. Like, I know a lot of community college students who go and they get the FAFSA and they get like $4,000 back as like a reimbursement because they don't use it all to pay tuitions of a community college. Then I would take back any reimbursement that you get because of FAFSA and put it into a savings account and not touch it until you have to transfer, because it's gonna suck if you're transferring and you don't have money and you could have had the money, but like, we're college kids, you're gonna blow it on stupid stuff. So I would just like make sure you don't blow it on stupid stuff. But yeah, just keep that in mind. So once you're doing your FAFSA, you're gonna need to have your tax information, your parents' tax information, your social, your parents' social, your parents' birthdays, including the year, and whether or not they paid child support. So with the socials, it should be on your tax form, so you should be good. If your parents are undocumented but they still pay taxes, you should be fine. Just put 000 on all their social securities. At first it's gonna say that it's invalid, but if you keep doing it, it's gonna go through. That's what I've been told. So yeah, don't worry if your parents are undocumented. If they're paying taxes, to just use their tax form. So yeah, so once you start the FAFSA application, the first 2 sections are just personal information. It's going to ask you for your name, your birthday, your social security, if you have a driver's license, your driver's license number, whether or not you have kids, which schools you're planning on going to. If you're going to be a first year and you're applying as a senior in high school, just go ahead and put all of the schools you're applying to. And then once you get accepted and you send in your letter of intent, then you're just going to go back and just keep the one school that you accepted. Sorry, I'm looking down because I have my computer and I have notes on it. So it's going to ask you if you have to pay child support, blah, blah. And then when it comes down to your parents, it's going to ask for both your parents, if they've been married, the date that they were married. So you should look for the legal date that they were married. It's also going to ask whether or not they filed taxes together. So it's going to say it on your tax form. So just pay attention to your parents' tax form. It's going to ask for their birthdates, their social security. It's going to ask whether or not either of them are paying child support. And if they are, you're going to have to put the correct amount that's been ordered by the court. And then it's going to, so after you do the personal information, it's going to ask you whether or not you're living on campus. If you're applying to college, I would just put that you're living on campus until you know, because you could go back and change it. And then it's gonna ask you a couple of like survey questions, and that's gonna decide whether or not you're a dependent, or and if you have to show your parents' tax information. To tell you guys the truth, it's like a rare, like super rare, that FAFSA's gonna say that you don't have to show your parents' tax information. I know that they're not gonna ask for parents' taxes if you're a foster kid, if you're emancipated, and sometimes if you have like a letter from like a clergy member or like or a trusted adult that says that you can't provide parents' taxes because like either they're like abusive or something like that. But it's really, really rare that you're gonna get like taken off. So it's really rare that you're not gonna be asked for your parents' like tax information. So just keep that in mind. So in order to turn or like put in all the tax information for you and your parents, because if you work, I highly recommend filing taxes even if you're a minor, because the first year that, or like I started working November of my junior year, so I didn't file taxes until my senior year, right before I was doing Fasfa, and it turns out that I hadn't been paying the federal taxes. So when I filed taxes, I had to pay the government $300, and the lady said that it was a good thing that I checked that, because that could have affected my financial aid. So even if you're a minor, I highly recommend filing taxes. You're not going to get any less money if you file taxes. If anything, you might get a little bit more, because they'll show that you had to work during high school, so you had to like be a source of income for yourself. So yeah, I highly recommend filing taxes as a minor. So yeah, so once you're doing your taxes, it's going to ask what type of tax you filed. The most common is the 10EZ, I believe, or the 1040EZ, or the 1040, sorry. So there's a thing on the FAFSA that's like the IRS tool, which you could just automatically put in your tax info and the IRS will fill out the FAFSA for you. If you're gonna do this, I highly recommend double checking to make sure everything's correct. I personally don't do it because I tried to do it my first year and it was super confusing and I got irritated, so I just did it manually, and I've been doing it manually ever since. Like, it probably takes you like 5 more minutes, like it's whatever. You're still gonna have to double check, so yeah, it's not a big deal whether you use it or not. So yeah, it's just gonna ask for your tax information. It's gonna ask, and after it's gonna ask for your parents. It's gonna ask if they have to pay child support, if you have Medicare, if you've ever needed assistance from the government. So just make sure you read all the questions. Then it's gonna ask you about your personal assets. I will go ahead and answer that, because I know that some people, they ask for additional information. So just go ahead and answer that. And then it's gonna ask you how many kids your family is going to have in college at the same time. Make sure you answer that and you read it correctly, because the more number of kids your parents are putting through college, the more financial aid you tend to get. So yeah, you just answer everything, and then you turn it in. You could do an electric signature. If you and your parents are comfortable doing that, then go ahead and do the electronic signature. It'll go by super fast, but I know some parents want to like physically sign copies and stuff like that, so you would just have to print out the contract. This is where doing FAFSA earlier rather than later is super important, because it's my understanding that you need to have the signature page processed before March 2nd to have your like financial aid and FAFSA like correct. So you want like the PO box I have to mail the signature page to is in Kentucky, so you just want to make sure you give yourself enough time to get processed. So yeah, you just have to do that. And in the end, it's going to tell you, the good thing about FAFSA is that automatically it's going to tell you how much you're eligible for at that moment. Sometimes it's going to be nothing, it's going to be little, it's going to be okay, or sometimes you're going to get the full amount. The good thing is that if your family's financial circumstances change a lot, then you could just reappeal the FAFSA and you might end up getting more. So that's good. And it's also going to tell you the maximum amount of loans you're going to be eligible to take out. So the FAFSA, in my opinion, is super easy to do. If you guys have questions, please leave them in the comment box. So yeah, I would highly suggest taking, even if you think you're not going to get anything through FAFSA, I highly suggest just going ahead and filling it out, because worst case scenario, you're going to get more money than you thought, or you're not going to get anything. So just go ahead and fill it out. You have nothing to lose. It's free. It's federal money. And yeah, so after you get FAFSA, like once you start school, FAFSA or like the federal government, it's gonna send the Pell Grant towards your school. And then most schools have like an option when you're like when you're setting up financial aid where like you could click it's automatically going to pay your tuition first, but like let's say if you're living on campus, it's going to say do you want to use your aid to pay for everything and then you get whatever left over. I suggest doing that route because you don't want to take out the money and then spend it. You want to make sure everything's paid for, and then if you have leftover money, that's great. So yeah, so you're not going to get a check from Pell Grant. It's going to go directly to your school. So yeah, so I hope you guys got a lot from this video. I hope it was informative. I hope it was helpful. If you guys have any other questions, please leave them in the comment box below. I'm gonna make sure to check out the description box, and please subscribe if you want to see more videos. I'm thinking of doing one about roommates. I'm also thinking of doing one on sorority life that I'm gonna go, so I'm gonna do like a splurge or save on sorority live. So yeah, just please subscribe, give this a like, share.